Dr. Clement Apak, he is, the MP for Bulsa South, and also he is the deputy ranking member of the Education Committee in Parliament. And he's been asking some questions with regards to, the buying of past questions for the 2020 WASSCE exams. And also he put that question in front of Parliament asking that what is the way forward? What are we doing ahead of the 2021 WASSCE as well? He got some answers and we'll delve into that shortly. But also joining us this morning is Dennis Miracles Abuaji. He is the former MCE for Kiapim North. Good morning to you as well. So what were you also doing? Were you a DJ, singer, rapper?
I was playing football.
Oh, you're playing football?
Oh, yes. You know those times you play inter-schools?
Yeah.
They pick the best to the inter-zones. You go to inter-districts at the regional level. Yeah.
So how far did you go? Regional?
The regional level.
So why did you stop?
No, those times we didn't know football was good.
How long ago was this?
You didn't know it was a
I mean, Abedipele gave us enough reason to want to believe that football.
It was just Abedipele then. It was recently when the Muntaris and they came.
But you don't look that old.
Yeah.
But it's because of your structure.
I'm surprised.
A short man.
How many years ago was that?
A short man is very young.
It's very old there.
There's a saying.
We are trying to calculate. You could have been playing. What's your favorite, team now? You could have been
Real Madrid.
Could have been playing international superstar.
You know those times, even the structures were not there.
You want pressure from Ghanaians to be answering questions.
The support system, to develop football was not really. You have to hustle through there. You get one Abedipele.
But more interestingly, everybody has a story to tell.
Yes, that's true.
We need to be encouraged to write.
We need to.
I've always been advocating that because it is amazing. I mean, all of these people that we all see, we look up to. If you hear their life stories, what they have done, why they did it, the challenges and trials and tribulations, and to see where they are today, it's very inspirational.
It is.
Very inspirational.
It is. Maybe you should encourage your kids. Who would have known?
I know.
That Dr. Apak was a DJ.
DJ Chief Apak.
And the volleyball captain at the University of Ghana. Do you know that?
Anyway, let's carry on. And yes, we'll be talking about education, but let's quickly take a look at the newspaper headlines. Daily Guide is what we'll start with. Nandom Chiefs laud Nana's efforts, and a smoke was presented to him from the Nandom Chiefs. As you know, he is on tour. And also, JV's killer brought MP's phones witness. Okay, and 3.2 million alawa. NPP women chase Lordina. And also, minister wants faster tech pace, and Ghana Gov takes off. Yesterday, it was officially launched by the vice president. Ghanaian Times, it says VIP launches digital platform to increase revenue collection. Kennedy Japan dragged to Privileges Committee for threatening journalists, and there's a back and forth as to some allegations that have been made. But of course, GIJ is also saying that the right thing needs to be done. Let's see how far this goes. GJA demands prompt action from national security and proposed toll increase to fix roads. Don't hike road tolls. Two transport unions kick against proposal. You know that the transport minister had indicated, even during his vetting as well, that he is hoping that the road tolls could be increased so that we can use that to fix the many problems on our roads. And also, the Business Finder portal to block revenue leakages launched. It will save Ghana 40 million Ghana cedis annually, according to Dr. Baumia. And population census, 85% enumerated so far. Work resumes at Bogoso mines. And then the Daily Graphic, a Greek ministry, a Greek ministry alert. Prolonged drought worrying, low food production in 4 regions. And yesterday, you saw, I'm sure you watched the news, News 360, where so many farmers in the Upper West region, especially, had gathered trying to get some subsidized fertilizers. And they're saying that they're not available, unfortunately, and they have to go and buy the expensive ones on the market. And so for people who have 40 acres, 6 acres and all that, they've had to reduce it to just about 2-3 acres because they do not have the subsidized fertilizers, to grow their maize and other crops as well. Very worrying, and they're threatening that there could be famine in some of these regions if government does not do its best. But remember that government also stepped in because of the smuggling of some of these subsidized fertilizers, and so they put in some measures to prevent that. If there's time, we'll go into that. But MPs receive salary arrears, not ex gratia. That's the majority chief whip, and he clarified that that's Mr. Frank and not Dompre. And also COVID-19 surge, intensive care units, testing facilities not overstretched, according to the Ghana Health Service. Finally, The Supreme Newspaper, COVID-19 situation scary. 2,512 persons currently living with the virus, 806 dead. NPA CEO honored for modest contribution to Zongo communities. Nandom Chiefs Lord Akufo-Addo, your interventions in Nandom unparalleled. And Nana Poku Fefre joins NPP National Youth Organizer race. And also Pram Kingmakers to install new Paramount Chief in October. Let's move on to the main topic of discussion. And yesterday we received, documents from Dr. Clement Apaka. These were some questions that he had asked on the floor of Parliament. I'll just read a bit of what was forwarded and then we'll get into the issues. Of course, the NPP or government has responded to some of these claims that have been made. And so we'll get into that. But here it says that government, based on two questions that I posed to the Minister for Education on July 14, 2021. And this is from Dr. Clement Apaka. He says to ask the Minister for Education if governments will procure and distribute past exam questions to final year students preparing to write WASSCE this year, 2021, and how this will be funded. And two, to ask the Minister for Education how much it costs the state to procure 568,755 past exam questions for students who wrote WASSCE in 2020, and the source of funds for the procurement. The written answers of the minister, which he made in Parliament, revealed the following. And I'll let him get into that. But you remember that we had about 375,000 WASSCE candidates for last year. And then there was a report by WAEC that also indicated that the 2020 WASSCE had been very successful because students had done pretty well. And so it said that this year, performances in math and English languages were the highest, recording 65.71 and 57.34% respectively. And it says that the information shows that about 60% of the 342,500 candidates who wrote the WASSCE, representing over 200,000, scored between A1 and C6 in their best 6 subjects, including English and maths, which qualified them for tertiary education. And this became one of the campaign messages, for government ahead of the 2020 elections, indicating that the Akufo-Addo graduates had done pretty well. And so that meant that free SHS was here to stay. But there were some educationists and a number of Ghanaians who questioned the need to buy past questions for these students. Doc, I'll come to you first. So what were the answers that you got when you posed these questions on the floor of Parliament?
Well, Bella, let me say good morning to you and good morning to viewers. And to say salute to Bulsngamena, all the Bulses. I greet them. And I noticed that you have not forgotten.
No, I haven't. I still remember.
Your small bully. Yeah.
I remember.
Well, as you indicated, I did pose some questions to the minister, and that is what you expect from a vibrant, active, and agile opposition. We oppose not just for the sake of opposing, but we oppose because we seek to understand why government does what it does, and whether what government is doing is going to inure to the collective good of the people. Yes, it is the case that for the first time in the history of our nation, government chose to procure and supply some 568,755 past WASSCE examination questions to students. But what was outstanding was that I didn't know, although I'm a member of the Education Committee, a deputy ranking member, and many Ghanaians did not know how much it cost the state to procure these exam questions to distribute to the students who wrote WASSCE in 2020. But that was the premise for my question in relation to 2020. So in the response that the minister gave, he indicated that yes, indeed, government had procured that quantity, and the cost was 33,641,043 Ghana cedis and 71 pesos. The minister also indicated that the material was procured from Mrs. Kingdom Books and Stationaries, was the company that supplied. Now, as somebody who wants to look forward and to anticipate, and I must be honest in stating that with regards to the procurement of the 568 for 2020, it was indeed captured in the estimates of the Ministry of Education. But what was not stated was where it was going to be funded from and who was going to make the supplies. So I have the Ministry of Education estimates, and it's clearly stated. And it says that the ministry also provided adequate supplies of teaching and learning materials for all students and teachers at the secondary level, and it lists a number of them, including 568,755 past exam questions. So that was one that was very clear, but there are issues with regards to the question. So in anticipation of what could be happening this year, because we had not been told, and if you look at the 2021 budget estimates from the same ministry, it had not indicated the procurement of past examination questions to be supplied to the students preparing to write the AWASI, I believe, September, October 2021. In response to my question, futuristic question, as far as I was concerned, the minister did affirm that government has already procured 446,954 past WASI examination questions from the same kingdom books and stationery at a unit cost of 78 Ghana cedis. And when you do the maths, that would translate to 34,862,412 Ghana cedis. But these were the initial questions, because in Parliament, when you file the question, the minister prepares and gives a written response, then comes to read that response. But as the person who posed the questions, on each question, you are granted 3 opportunities to ask what we call follow-up questions. And those are supposed to elicit further responses and to get further clarifications. So, for example, some of the follow-up questions I asked the minister was why the difference between the unit price. Because if you do the maths from the figures that the minister provided for the year 2020 procurement of the 500 and something thousand, vis-a-vis the amount, it works out to 59 Ghana cedis per unit.
Okay.
And for 2021, it is 78 Ghana cedis per unit. So naturally, I wanted to know why there was the disparity.
Okay.
Especially so, when it also indicates that it is the same entity, Kingdom Books and Stationery.
Okay.
And in particular, I also wanted to understand why government had chosen to sole source
this particular
service from this particular company.
Okay.
2 years in a row.
I'll let you hold on.
Some of the questions that
I'll let you
I
hold
raised.
on, and Dennis, I'll come to you shortly. But we've been able to raise the Deputy Minister for Education, Honorable Reverend Ntim Fodjwo. He's on the line with us. He's also the MP for Asin South constituency. Good morning, Honorable. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good morning.
All right. So you've heard the questions that Dr. Clement Apak has been asking, based on the responses that the Education Minister gave to, how much was spent on past questions in 2020 and how much has already been spent at the moment. And he's asking that why the difference and what is the reason for the difference between the unit cost? Because in 2020, if you do the calculations, it says that each, past question units cost 59 Ghana cedis. And now, based on the figures that we've been given, we're told that it costs 78 Ghana cedis per unit of the past questions. Can you explain that to us, please?
Yeah, good morning to you, cherished viewers. The figures Honorable Apak has given are incorrect for 2019 figures. As a matter of record, in the year 2019, procurement was done for 361,755 booklets containing wide past questions from 2013 to 2018. Also contained in that same booklet are comprehensive examiner's report for all 4 core subjects. These were procured at a unit price of 71 cedis, 25 pesos, 71.25. This brings the total to 25,775,043 cedis.75. So that is the figure available, and that is the figure that we have supplied. Now, the Honorable Apak knows very well that we have a procedure in Parliament. At the commencement of proceedings, there is provision for correction of votes and procedures in anticipation of typos and errors that may accompany some aspect or portions of our other paper or votes and procedures. Just yesterday, I rose up on the floor of Parliament and corrected certain errors and typos on 6 different pages. And the Speaker granted say, this morning when we go, any typo that was contained on our other paper or votes and procedures, we'll correct it.
Okay.
And so that typo which he's hinging on to be a figure for which he computes, and the unit cost comes up to 59 cedis per unit, and for which he's comparing that the price has jumped from 2019 59 cedis to 78, 32% increase is not correct. It is 71.25 and an increase from 71.25 in 2019 to 78 unit price in 2021. It represents only 9.47% increment.
Okay, so you're saying that, based on the reports we have here, that amount, 33,641,043 Ghana cedis, is wrong.
It's incorrect.
Okay.
That is a point I have made, and Honorable Park very much knows. Yesterday we met on PM Express. I showed him a copy of the agreement, which contains the figures I have given, and I stated that when a typo is recorded on an order paper of votes and proceedings, it's a matter of correcting it in the next proceedings. This is a normal practice we do every day. So we shouldn't change on that typo that appeared on the order paper to make any justification. These are the records.
But this is quite worrying, because if this is made available to Parliament and also to the public, how did we not see these typos to correct them before putting them out?
I told you that every day we correct. You follow proceedings. We correct typos. Just as I corrected 6 pages. There were errors on 6 pages. These are errors that inadvertently do occur in the process of production of our other papers. So these are minor corrections that are easily corrected. So that is not the focus. The focus here is that as students have been prepared for 3 years, and as is best practice everywhere, when you're going to sit for SAT, when you're sitting for IB, when you're sitting for Cambridge, when you're sitting for GRE or any international exam for that matter, past questions and the comprehensive marking scheme and the examiner's report are made available and accessible at a fee to the user. And in West Africa, WAEC, many countries, the 5 countries that make up WAEC, many countries are spending sufficiently to prepare their children to pass. This practice of compiling past questions and examiner's report is to introduce to the child in their revision period how they ought to prepare for the exam that is ahead. In the past, we have had situations where particularly people that are from underserved communities and underserved backgrounds are unable to afford. We have had parents who are spending as much as 2,000 cedis, 1,000 cedis, just to be able to compile certain material to aid their students. And this time for equity and across the board, 430-page report, a booklet that is 430 pages. So when people are talking about value for money consideration, let us have in mind that the booklet is 430-page booklet of all past questions and examiner's report. And this, on the market, you will not even get it at 200 cedis or 500 cedis. You won't get it anywhere at that cost. And so if it was procured at 71.25 cedis in 2019, and 2 years on, it has been reviewed 9.47% to 78%. That is the matter. Now, the question is
Doc, before you carry on, sorry, Honorable, before you carry on, I just want you to run us through these typos and the corrections that you made. You've mentioned one of them, but you said 6 pages, right?
Yeah, there are 6 pages.
Can you just run us through some of these other corrections that you made?
Let me run you through.
Okay.
Let me run you through and to indicate. I'm right here in your studio, but I'm unable to enter. Just as indicated, I would have given you all these.
Oh, you are here with us.
Yes, and I indicated to your producer. I've been here at the outset. But but let me just indicate to you.
Just briefly, please, so we can move on.
Page 12, page 13, 14, 15, up to page 16. There were errors even in the spelling, in the nomenclature of a particular ministry. Chieftaincy and traditional affairs was what was indicated, but that is not the case.
Okay.
So
all right.
And I have to take time to correct all these. So these are inadvertent typos or errors which
Doc,
do occur, and
I keep calling you Doc.
in the anticipation of which our procedures make room for correction of votes and procedures. So
all right.
My colleague, knowing very well what the actual figures are, should not try to play to the typos. These are not the substantive matters. The substantive matter here is that is it justified for people to invest into preparing our children to have quality outcomes? And is it tenable that we go through due process and approve same for a material to be procured? And when you compare the 430-page past questions and examiner's report, comprehensive examiner's report, which can never be procured even at the least 200 cedis on the market, and it is procured at 71.25 in 2019 per copy, and procured at 78 per copy in 2021. This is not a matter that one
but parents raised objections to the buying of WASI papers. There were some seasoned educationists who also raised objections because they were saying that instead of spending that much money on past questions, we're supposed to have provided textbooks to the schools. We're supposed to equip these teachers so they can teach. And maybe we won't need to rely solely on past questions.
Let me submit to you that past questions aside, there were many interventions. For instance, we supplied 4 core textbooks to every child. That is something that was never done in the previous government. For the first time, we supplied 4 textbooks to all the core subjects, to students. And
to students at the SHS level?
To the library. So it is incorrect when any assertion is made.
Reverend, are you saying these books were provided to SHS students? Because there was also the concern about those in primary and the fact that even at that time, there were issues with the development of the curriculum and provision of textbooks for these students as well. And so that's why the educationists were raising objections.
And you're comparing it to primary. So
no, because those are the concerns that these educationists raised, that we have not equipped the primary students as much.
And I'm telling you that textbooks were supplied.
Okay, no problem. But moving on, also the other concern would be that there's a question about why we went to this same company, to procure these past questions for us, especially looking at the price from last year. Could we not have found someone else?
Let me explain to you, Bella.
Okay.
WAEC owns the copyright to all their questions and material and examiner's report. They own the copyright to that. If there's any publisher out there who, without legal authority of WAEC, is reproducing any WAEC material, that publisher is doing so in breach of the law. And this must be put in context as we speak. WAEC, the only company that WAEC has granted that right, that legal authority to reproduce their past questions and examiner's report is Kingdom Books. As and when WAEC or other publishers, for that matter, are able to obtain the legal right to reproduce such material, competitive tender may be engaged. But as we speak, that is the only company that has the sole right to reproduce. So when people are confusing is that so sourcing was done, why was there no competitive tendering? For instance, if you want to supply premix, you have to tender with companies that have OMC licenses. So if there's only one company that has an OMC license, that person may be the only person who participates. If there are many others who hold a particular license in the undertaking for which you are intending to procure, they will participate in the respect of this matter. WAEC has that right, and they reserve the right to grant it to publishers who they will so grant the authority to reproduce. And Kingdom Books is the only company that WAEC, as we speak, has granted that legal authority to. And so as a ministry, we couldn't engage in an illegality of engaging multiple players in competitive tendering when they did not have the copyright, the sole right, the right to be able to reproduce. So that matter must be put in context. There is no attempt anywhere to misappropriate the public funds. As a matter of fact, due processes were followed, PPA approved, and I've been giving you an indication on which market will you find 457-page a booklet with past questions and examiner's report, even going for 200 cedis.
All right.
And this
Thank
has
you,
been
Rev.
reduced to 71.25 in 2019.
All right.
78.
We've got that
the
point.
Is, let us bear in mind the outturn, the spelling outturn of the 2020 WASI results. Out of the 465 students
all right.
in
Rev, thank you. Thank you so much.
411 of them
thank you.
Ghana
We have those details. Thank you so much, Rev. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time, Rev. All right. We've been speaking to the Deputy Education Minister. I'm sure if I give him the chance, he'll probably go on for a while. But we also have to get responses from the studios before Dennis comes in.
Because
Dennis, I'll bring you in. Don't worry.
Minister. He's my colleague. And ideally, he should have been here. But the way it is the way it is. You know, he has made a number of points, which he made before, which I continue to disagree with. He makes the case that there is a specific arrangement between WAEC and Kingdom Books.
Yes.
We all know Kingdom Books is not a publisher to begin with. They sell books and stationery. I, as a member of the Education Committee, have never received any of these details. And I am yet to see a document that would indicate to me that WAEC has given the sole rights to Kingdom Books to procure from them questions and examiners' reports and to sell those to government for distribution. So I would want this claim to be backed by a document because, I mean, we are talking about legalities. The point the Deputy Minister raises is that government is dealing solely with Kingdom Books because legally government cannot go to any other source.
Yes.
And that if any other source is selling past WAEC examination questions, that is illegal. So let's see the agreement that says that WAEC has this agreement with Kingdom Books, which would then justify, in my opinion, the decision for government to go to Kingdom Books 2 years in a row.
He also says that the figures that you're putting out, he corrected that in Parliament.
That is not, no, he never did. What he is indicating is that in the minister's official response to Parliament, there were mistakes in the figures. But you see, Bella,
and he says he raised those points.
No, he didn't. He is now saying it. What the Deputy Minister is saying is that if we go to Parliament today, when we start sitting, what he has deemed to be mistakes will be corrected. That has not been done yet. So I cannot be faulted.
But he says he raised it and you are aware of it.
But I don't believe him.
Why don't you believe him?
Because the minister read this same response verbatim to my hearing in Parliament.
Okay.
And he is the Deputy Minister. The minister read these same figures. So if after the fact, his deputy is now telling us that there are mistakes in the figures, why do you think that I should accept the rendition of the deputy over the minister himself who came and presented this to the August House of Parliament? I would only accept it if the corrections are made today in Parliament and are captured in the official records of Parliament. But as far as I am concerned, as far as the public is concerned, this is the response that the minister gave. So if there are any mistakes, it is not Dr. Park's fault. It is not Bella's fault. It is those who provided the information. It's between those who provided the information and those who put that content in what we call the order paper.
Doc, let me bring Dennis in to also just respond to some of these issues quickly before we move on. I mean, Reverend says that I shouldn't be bringing in the issue of primary schools when we're talking about senior high schools. But again, I'm coming back to that point, and maybe I should just find that story and read it. So it said that there was a councillor who criticized the Ghana Education Service on its decision to spend so much on past questions. And his concern was that there are primary schools, that are under trees, studying under trees. There are primary schools that did not have the textbooks at that time. And so did we think that at that point it was feasible to spend that amount of money purchasing past questions for these students, when we could have even equipped the teachers to educate them properly so they wouldn't necessarily have to rely solely on these past questions? Dennis?
Bella, I think Reverend has done very, very good justice to the issues that Doc has raised. Doc, it's in his right to raise those issues, especially being a ranking member of the committee.
Deputy, you felt a deputy.
I mean, he's my brother-in-law, so I want him to get there quickly, But key to this conversation is the fact that what is the point that is being made here? Clearly, Doc is aligned with the ministry on the basis and reasons for procuring these past questions. He has not in any way indicated that it is not a good practice. He has not in any way indicated that it's of no effect or consequences on the performance of the children. For me, that is
no, I've not encouraged it.
Where he's raised concerns are the issues that he's raised. But the point is the ministry clearly has explained each of the issues that Doc has raised. What I would have expected from Doc is to sort of come up with some concrete, basis to challenge those things. But he's still being very speculative. For example,
no, but he says that he's waiting for documents.
No, hold on. It is not the ministry that is supposed to provide documents of agreement between WAEC and Kingdom Book Service.
Whose job is it?
It is not the ministry's job.
So whose job is it?
The agreement, whatever agreement that exists between WAEC and Kingdom, is between WAEC and Kingdom. It is rather Doc that should come up and say that I know Bella and Co, who are also publishers of WAEC, past questions, and can also supply same. He has not been able to do that. And I can tell you that for a fact. And this is easily verifiable. Even TV3, Newsday can even do that. You can quickly verify from WAEC which other, institution or company has a right to publish their books. Once they supply you that information, then you can counterclaim whatever it is that.
But at least because this is an allegation against the Ministry of Education, should they not be concerned about putting? Because these are questions that they're asking.
And you said
let's help ourselves.
Prove why you are so
No, let's help ourselves. He has already told you that the reason why it is only Kingdom is because Kingdom is the only one with the right from WAEC.
Would it not make it easier if he had documents to back it?
What? Which document? From where? Go and find out from WAEC.
But did Ministry of Education not get those documents? Because if you are going to purchase from a company and WAEC says, this is the only company that we have legitimately given the rights to,
the point
should you not be working with documents?
Are you just being cynical? Is it the case that we are just being cynical, that we are just being skeptical, or we have basis to doubt that? That is the point I'm making. Please, let me tell. Do we have basis to doubt that? Or we are just being skeptical? You understand? Skepticism is allowed. It is to say that, well, let me just give you a certain benefit of that, but can I see evidence? Okay, which is something that is easily verifiable. So for me, it is not even a subject for major discussion because it's easily verifiable. Once you verify and you confirm that, indeed, there are other companies that have the right, then you can bring it to the fore for public discussion. You have a research team, you have a backroom staff that are supposed to help you do these things. But for you to throw it into the public domain, make it look as if there's been some, bad deal somewhere, when in fact you have no basis to that, for me, it's purely unfair. Even towards the listeners and viewers and the citizens of this nation. Because really, you've brought out an issue to the fore without any basis. Number two, the issue of price disparity. I think Reverend has done justice to it. The past questions, as the year progresses, you add on the previous year's exam. So if you look at the number of pages, the 2019 one had about 430 pages. Yeah. The 2021 one had about 457 pages. So obviously, you should expect price change. Obviously, you should expect price change even without economic indicators. The number of pages have actually increased. Number three, the core and key, for me, the most important issue to discuss here is there any positive implications of these past questions on the performance of the students? And the answer, which is universal, is yes. Because even in international exams, Bella, all of us that have gone through school, we know that when you get to the final year, the number one document that you need is your past questions. In fact, those of us who were from less privileged communities, who were in the senior high school, we used to beg from our friends. It is one of the key documents that you use to prepare yourself for the exams. And in all exams, if you have written SAT before, if you have written TOEFL before, if you have written GRE before, you'd realize that when you go to British Council, after registering for the exams, the key document they give you is the past questions and the examiner's report. Because you see, from the senior high school 1 to the time you get to Form 3, the teachers have taught you. In Form 3, you are preparing towards the exams. Preparation towards exams is not just about learning what the definition of photosynthesis is. It is about how the exam is structured, how the answers are supposed to be structured, what the examiner expects from you. Those are completely different from absorbing
But should we be spending that much
Why
on
not?
it?
Why not? In the 2020 results, where we started, we started this particular project. In the 2020 results, it has shown clearly that it has given us results. 411 out of the top 465 performing WASSCE students are from Ghana. And what the ministry is saying is that we believe these interventions that were put in place are the reasons why we got these results.
But there were some students who also thought that these past questions that were provided for them was actually a poor. So for some reason, they were looking forward to some of these questions repeating themselves
That
in
is
the
lame.
exams.
All of us have schooled. We have schooled. We shouldn't allow people to just hoodwink us. We went to secondary school. Which child in the senior high school doesn't need past questions? All of us need it.
But
I needed
the question again is,
past
we have to
questions,
spend that
past
much?
questions
Now
are
Reverend is saying
to your
that there were
performance
some
in the
books
senior
that
high
were
school.
provided, some textbooks were provided. Now we're speaking to a teacher, and the teacher says that the books have not arrived yet. They are still under procurement, and so we don't even have those textbooks yet.
Which textbooks?
The same textbook that Reverend is
The senior high
saying.
school students had called textbooks to study. They had that in conjunction with the past questions, and that is what they used to study. That is what the senior high school students who went out of the WASSCE recently and gave us the star results, that is what they used to study. So Bella, the point I am making is that this is just a cynical conversation that has been brought to the fore. For me, I would have expected that Dr. Apak would have said that, well, I think that these past questions are of no consequence to the performance of the students, and that whether you give it to them or not, even if they don't have it, they will come out with flying colors. Number two, he would say that, well, I think that it's not supposed to be sold at 78 cedis, but it should be sold at 40 cedis, and this is the invoice or pro forma invoice that I have from company A. If these issues are brought to the fore, if these issues are brought to the fore, then we can be having some proper conversation.
You see, you are saying, and government is saying that there's a reason why we went for this particular company, and it's because WAEC says that there is that legitimacy when it comes to, who has the legal rights to publish these past questions. If you are the one making that claim, you need to back it with your facts. And that's why I keep coming back to it. That you don't expect that we are the ones who will go and find those details. If you are saying it, so why are you not providing it?
So I listening to the minister. I think that the minister is willing and ready
they should
to
provide
any of
Have you seen that document yourself? Have you seen that document yourself?
No, Bella, hold on. You need to put the issues.
This came yesterday. It came yesterday.
Being a ranking member, deputy ranking member of the Ministry of Education, could request for this document even at the committee level.
But the Ministry of Education is the one that is saying this is what we got.
Hold on.
That WAEC says that it is only Kingdom books.
Before
Should they not back it? Did you not anticipate that there will be concerns about
anticipate
that?
I've filed this question for over 1 month.
Please. I mean, I'm almost wrapping up.
I know.
Anticipate that somebody will be cynical to doubt that WAEC actually has given sole right to Kingdom. Anticipate that.
But you can't just make these claims and expect that everybody would accept it.
But you can just put out a baseless allegation.
How is it baseless?
It is baseless.
That is why Reverend came to explain to us what exactly it
is.
is.
If you have evidence, facts to back what you're saying.
But this is a report that was put out yesterday in Parliament.
You see, the point I am making is that you being a member of the Committee of Education could easily, even before you came here this morning, have sought this information from even WAEC.
Why didn't you bring that information?
Bring it at what point? You are saying it came up yesterday. You are saying it came up yesterday. So bring it at what point? You are the one who is
saying, and of course, and when I say you, not you necessarily, but MOE is saying.
So MOE should have anticipated Dr. Park's.
This is a deal between WAEC and Kingdom.
So MOE
and that is why we went with Kingdom.
MOE
give us the facts.
Bella, MOE should have anticipated Dr. Apak's cynicism.
Not just Dr. Apak. These are questions that Ghanaians were raising.
Voila.
Where?
So you don't think that if this came out, Ghanaians would have questioned that, okay, why are we going for sole sourcing with the same company again in the second year?
And the ministry has explained that to you. After the ministry has explained, you are the one who is being skeptical.
Where you is who?
Dr. Park.
Okay.
So I am saying that the ministry has explained. Hasn't the ministry explained?
Okay.
So now Dr. Park says,
for me.
You have explained to me. I have heard that you are telling me that Kingdom Books is a sole, the sole company with the right. But I do not believe you. So give me document. You raised this yesterday. Why don't you wait for them to give you the document?
So you're saying the Hansard captured it wrongly?
No. You raised it yesterday. So why don't you wait for them to give you the document?
Okay. Let Doc come in to respond.
Well.
Doc.
Bella, you see, government and government officials and spokespersons can say what they want. But the facts are the facts. These are legitimate questions. And the onus does not fall on me to prove otherwise. You have made a claim that these are the reasons why you have acted this way. You ought to be able to provide proof documentarily. And look, yes, I am skeptical. Skeptical because this is not going to be the first time that government or the ministry has come to Parliament, made a case to justify sole sourcing, whereupon we have granted them that request, only for it to turn out not to be. You know, one of the other questions that I actually posed to the minister had to do with the engagement with Mrs. Bluegrass Ghana Limited to provide in excess of 800,000 mathematical sets. Did you know that up until I filed my question, the contract had been terminated? Did you know that Mrs. Bluegrass had not been able to fulfill the contractual agreement? And did you know that Mrs. Bluegrass got a tax waiver of in excess of $3 million, and in fact, had failed to even provide half of the maths test? Did you know that no student
that they had brought some in, but we didn't have the numbers? And so what are the exact numbers that we have?
Well, I will tell you what it says. So you see, when we are skeptical, there is good reason, very good reason. Mrs. Bluegrass Limited supplied 416,060 scientific mathematical instruments. That is what happened. This was even after the contract was amended. He could not still fulfill. And this is an entity that was brought. And we were told that it was only Mrs. Bluegrass Limited which had the capacity to provide this. And we were told that it was an emergency. We granted everything that was needed. Sole sourcing, one entity, never delivered. So why shouldn't I be skeptical in the case of Kingdom Books? We have reason to be skeptical.
Okay.
Bella, this conversation...
Hold on, Dennis, I'll let you respond to
we
this
will
issue
not, We will not finish. When we speak
it.
about the positive impact of examination questions, how do you measure that? Are you telling us that the teachers have no role to play? Is it only the exam questions that...
No, but is that not to complement the work that the teachers
but
are
you
doing?
See, the way they are eulogizing the past questions, as though it is because of the past questions that the students did well. Look, there are students in this country... That's
not exactly what they said, is it?
I said as though it's conditional.
Okay.
But they shouldn't try to elevate the provision of past questions as a higher denominator. It is part of a gamut of other interventions that have been made, and we should not diminish that role. Look, it is not every student in Ghana who has access to past questions. Me, I went to school in the rural area. I did the former system, O-levels in Sandema Secondary Technical, and I missed distinction by only 2. I got aggregate 14 instead of 12. I never had access to past questions. I went to Nandom Secondary School, did my 6th form. I never had access to past questions. I qualified and came to the University of Ghana. And today I'm a PhD holder.
Is that not why probably government is procuring these past questions so they can make it available to these students who hitherto would not have access?
The point I'm making is that what is most important is to provide a conducive, holistic environment for teaching and learning. You can complement with past questions, but we should not be speaking as though it is past questions alone. When we do that, it presupposes that our interest is just to get the students to pass. And that in itself is not the classic definition of what we would call education. You know, they talk about books. Look, I went to a workshop as a member of the Committee of Education. And our chairman was there, who actually belonged to the NPP. In a presentation by SEND, it came out that even the core textbooks that government is supposed to provide free and to every student as part of the definition of what it means to be free within the policy. There are schools where 2, 3, 4 students share one core textbook. Not the elective textbooks, because parents are to buy. It is the ability to afford. So we have challenges. We can work at them. But when we raise these legitimate issues, and we query about why certain things have been done the way they are, rather than adopting this dismissive nature and trying to suggest that we don't have any legitimacy in querying you for what you are doing on our behalf, sometimes it is quite frustrating, to say the least.
Okay. Dennis, come in and respond to these issues, because we're getting indication, that's the company that, well, okay, we have Cookie here. Let's just get Cookie to read some of the messages, and then we'll come back and respond to the issue of the KPEC. Matt says, hello,
okay,
Cookie.
Bella. First one says, good morning, TV3. This government is only playing politics with our education and the future of our generation. Buying past questions for students is a way of giving a pot to the students, limiting their learning scope, and misplaced priority for educational progress. We need quality teaching and learning, and that came from Victor Rapture in Ho. What accounts for the increase in the cost of the material from 2019 to 2020 in the face of a relatively stable inflation rate? Shaibu Mashoud from Tamale sent in that one. Shoaib, actually. Good morning, Bella. Is the minister trying to tell Ghanaians that they do not edit their documents before and after print out? Are they even aware that those past questions given to the children mislead them? And that's why after exams, you could see many students agitated, tearing those books and burning them. They should come again. Gundana Daboya sent in that one. Why are we buying past questions, answers, and examiners' reports? Why not encourage students to learn from textbooks to understand subjects and understand so that they can use it in their jobs in the future? This amount to chew, pour, pass, and forget for students. These are the reasons why industry is not getting qualified staff and to deliver to our country. Someone from Teshi sent in that one. Who sold WASI past questions for 34.8 million to government? This money could have been used to build schools. My head aches this morning. Hand dealing under this government is becoming a culture. Shaggy from Nima sent in that one. Good morning, Bella. I'm asking the ministry and the GES whether these students cannot pass the exams without WASI past questions. I think if these students are well taught, there will be no need for past questions. GES should sit up with the standard. Should sit up. The standards are falling. Sir Godfly from Kukwen to me sent in that one. I beg your pardon. Now, if private producers like Akiola and Akron Series are producing textbooks with over 500 pages at a cost of 45 Ghana cedis, then there's no financial produce at what the minister was saying. Again, last year, question packs were returned to the various stores at the schools. Waste, waste, waste. A concerned teacher sent in that one. And the last one says, good morning, Bella. The Deputy Minister for Education has come to expose the ignorance of his party in his Pasco saga. How can you spend that much amount on past questions whilst we can buy textbooks to enable our students prepare adequately? Tradles sent in that one. Bella, I'm done with the messages.
Thank you so much. Dennis, I'll bring you in.
And then make one quick point, then you can come in. No, just for the sake of the records.
Okay.
Do you know that WAEC actually receives annual budgetary support from the state through the Ministry of Education? I will put that out, and that is a fact. At another time,
say it again. You're saying that
WAEC receives budgetary support from Ghana through the Ministry of Education.
I see.
So there is some relationship directly between WAEC and government.
Okay. Dennis, I mean, I'll let you respond to this, but let's bring in the issue of the private schools as well, because they were not roped into free SHS. I want to find out when these, past questions came in, did we make some available to them? And if so, did we need to?
There's a reason why, first of all, these past questions are bought for these senior high school students. It is because of government's ambition to make sure that cost and poverty doesn't become a barrier to our children receiving quality education. So let's put that one in proper perspective. For students who decide to go to private schools, these are students that we deem and understand that they can afford, and that's why they are there. So for them, those subventions do not apply to them as we speak now. So that's the response.
Okay.
Now, I feel very sad with what we are doing when it comes to how poverty is preventing a lot of our children from getting access to quality materials to be able to advance their education. And I'll use myself as an example. And Doc himself used himself as an example. So he told you about how he did not have past questions. Does it hurt? Would it have done him any wrong if he had it at that time? Would it have taken anything away from him if he had it? So we shouldn't discuss this matter as if textbooks have not been provided for the children. That is a lie. The core textbooks, 4 core textbooks each, were given to each of these WASI students to study.
Each of them?
Yes.
So we didn't have 3, 4 students sharing one core textbook?
So they are studying.
Well, I'm not saying it.
Doc, let me speak.
No, I'm just making a point. Send Ghana. You may contact them.
So these students have textbooks that they are studying with. Now, complementary, in addition to that, government realizes that there are other tools and materials that these students need to be able to come up with flying colors. One of which being mathematical set, the other one being the past questions. Past questions are not Apple. We should just disabuse our minds of that. It is completely erroneous. It is only for people who haven't sat in secondary school that would say that past questions are.
Did we give the private
In any
institutions
case, hold on.
some
No,
of
but
the past
I've already
questions?
responded to you. I said private institutions, they can afford. The reason why government is buying for public institutions because we don't want any child to be left behind. So I've answered that.
Okay.
If you're in a private school, it means that you can afford to go and buy your own. Don't forget, these past questions, they are already out there. You can go to WAEC and go and get it.
Okay.
They are there. But if you cannot afford, what happens? It means that you are disadvantaged. A government effort in ensuring that all children have access to the tools to be able to be ready for the exam says that we think having past questions are not Apple unless you are illiterate.
Okay. Well, talking about the math sets, we still didn't get them in time for the WASSCE. We were told that it was because of COVID, and so there were some difficulties in making them available during that period. Now we're hearing that government Ghana has ended that contract between itself and Bluegrass. We know that Bluegrass was introduced, as the company that will procure these, math sets by Cornfield Transnational Limited. And then we're told that Cornfield has also ended or terminated its agreement with Bluegrass Group Limited. So what is happening with regards to these math sets?
I think we are all aware of this particular issue. This is a company that presented themselves as having the capacity to provide mathematical sets.
Which is Cornfield or which is Bluegrass?
To Cornfield, and Bluegrass was a local agent.
Yeah.
With the capacity to provide mathematical sets. It has come out clearly, and the Minister of Education then has explained that these people are unable to deliver. And in fact, there are even criminal investigations on the individual who presented himself as the...
Is it in relation to the math
Yes.
set?
He has already been, he's been arrested and he's being investigated by the NIB. So for me, this is an issue of...
But we're told that it was also for another reason, and so there are some
No.
conflicting reports.
This particular issue was clarified and explained by the then minister, even at his veteran. So we are aware of what the issues are. The point is, I said I will supply with mathematical sets. I have breached the contract. I was unable to supply it. There are processes and laws that have to deal with me in that respect. I think we should allow that to go on.
Did we pay in full?
No,
Okay.
it wasn't. And as we speak now, the ministry indicates that the contract that was signed has been terminated. What it means is that other efforts will be made to ensure that we get it from other sources. And then this particular company that probably misrepresented themselves will be dealt with. But Bella, my point this morning is this. Dr. Clement Apak and the NDC should allow us as a nation to have some proper basis discussions when it comes to education. That is my view. So we should desist from throwing into the public issues of education on issues that we don't have.
But that is why we're getting these
Bella,
answers, is it not?
Would you have known how much it costs to buy past exams?
Okay, you learn from me because they say my time is up, we have to go.
Let me make my point. If you are going to bring these things out, don't come and say that past questions is a poor. It is not. Don't come and say that past questions is the only thing that the government is giving to the
you are
students. It is
behaving
not.
as though.
Okay.
These are things that we have to put out there and let people understand that the government is doing all they could to be able to give us the best. At the end of the day, the people of Ghana will measure whether the interventions from government are key or not through the performance of these students. And so far, with these interventions, it is obvious that the results that we have churned out are better than the results in the past.
Okay,
Bella,
all right.
If
Final
the
words,
students
Doc, so
had
we can go.
optimum conditions with the supply of past questions, we should be expecting more, thousands of 8As rather than 411.
So is this not a start?
We should look
so you
at
made the point.
improving the general conditions
In addition to that.
enhance
Okay.
teaching and learning.
Okay.
And you see, I am waiting to hear what is going to happen to Bluegrass.
Yeah.
Because this was sole sourced. The arguments were made and justified. We were skeptical then. We've been proven right. So if we are skeptical again, and this issue of buying from a single source, we have every reason to be
Well,
skeptical.
Cornfield explained that, this was the local supplier
And they have
for
supplied.
them, which is why they were
They are not
working
connected. They are
with
not
Bluegrass.
disconnected.
But
They have
we'll
supplied.
get into more details, and we hope that we can get some responses from the minister in Parliament with regards to these corrections that he mentioned. We've been speaking to Dr. Clement Apak. He is the MP for Busa South and also the Deputy Ranking Member on the Education Committee in Parliament. And also Dennis Miracles Abuaje is a former MCE for Equiapim North. Earlier, we spoke to Honorable Reverend Ntim Fojo, who's the Deputy Minister for Education, to throw some light on the issue. We have more coming up, but do share your thoughts and comments with us. Hashtag TV3 Newday. And also big thank you to the Lash Closet for styling me. We'll be back with more.